views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, and with me,
Steve Asher.
Hey, Steve, how you been, brother?
Man, solid. Pretty good day, man. You know,
good.
Not much craziness, so I can't complain.
Good. Hey, have you been following? I don't know if you're a political man or not, but have you been following the race?
The race, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
come on.
We're talking
you
about of course, the American Trump and Clinton
yeah.
thing, and yeah. I mean,
yeah. Just curious to be watching this unfold. We've never talked about it, you and I. And my Lord, man, I don't even know, and I know I'm probably going to get beaten up again. I may not vote.
I seen you posted that.
I did, and I got browbeat pretty hard.
I'm not going to browbeat you, because I'll tell you what, especially when, in the years when I was, really into punk and stuff, I was just like, look, you can't really bank on any of them, because they're all backed by special interests. They all are, got money coming from oil or coming from pharmaceuticals or coming from big tobacco and all this stuff. And there's really nobody cleaning the race.
Yeah, well, I may change my mind 11th hour, and go vote. But right now, it's just like, I'm just so sick of it. I'm to the point where I'm just sick of hearing about it. I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I'm just sick of hearing about it.
Well, yeah, of course you are. I mean, that's the thing. And it's not really like the stuff that you're hearing. And I'm not saying that I'm either or for Trump or not for Trump. But the thing is, I've seen a lot of the stuff I saw initially was memes. And it was talking about, how these girls whispering to each other, by the way, this is how men speak in private.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it just bros being bros.
Well, I also heard that excuse. That's how guys are just being guys. And I'm sure that in my younger days, just like you, we probably talked some off-color things, before we were married and this, and we were young. But should something said 11 years ago in a private conversation be held against them today? That's something I question.
Well, all right. Well, on that same note, should something that happened in the Oval Office, almost going on 20 years ago, should that have mattered? Apparently it didn't. So
yeah,
it's one of those things. It's got to be fair.
But it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to break the law. You see what I'm saying? Where what happened in the Oval Office actually broke the law.
Well, sure it did.
But him saying vulgar things with his buddies, yucking it up about ladies, whatever, is not necessarily breaking the law. But having visits of those kinds while you're a sitting president with intern is breaking the law.
Right. And yeah, sure, it crosses all kinds of lines of conduct and all that. And well, the thing is too is maybe Trump did break the law of
the
candor
moral
and
yeah.
type of stuff. Gentlemen don't talk and all that
Mm-hmm,
stuff. But come on, especially if you're kind of one of those boisterous guys and all about the bravado and talk about all the ladies.
Well, I got the news
headboard and all that.
I got news for all the ladies out there, and this may rock your world, but men do talk.
Oh yeah,
I mean, men do that locker room, air quotes, talk about their past conquests.
I think even if you're not trying to how do I put it, to not devalue the woman so much.
Sure.
Friends, best friends are going to kind of go, well, yeah, I dated her a few years back. Yeah,
I dated her a few years back.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly. I've never heard that. I haven't heard that phrase in a very long time. Yes, I betted her. But no, but I know exactly what you're saying.
I've known her in the biblical sense.
Yes, I know her in the biblical way. Yeah, exactly. I watched the debates the other night, and this is what really changed my mind about possibly not voting. Was the mud that was being slung was just nothing more than mud being slung. There's very little in the way of caring about the American people.
No, and it's the same. I saw something too, and apparently I've been reading a lot of friggin' memes because I'm bringing another one up. I saw a thing where it said Trump and Hillary are like a mom and dad that are fighting over the kid, and you only want to go stay with like Grandpa Joe or something.
Yeah. In fact, I think I threw that up on the Facebook as well. Right. I feel like Trump and Clinton are two divorced parents fighting for custody over us, and we just want to go live with Grandma.
Yeah. And it seems like it happens every so often. It seems like, and I don't know why it's to the point it is now, and maybe it had been, but I wasn't looking at it through adult eyes. I had other things going on when I was a kid. I was more worried about Thundercats or whatever.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Who wasn't?
Thundercats,
No, well, let me say, okay, let's go there. So, if your choices was like Tigra, Lionel, or what's it, Snarf?
Yeah.
I guess he could be Bernie.
Sure,
he's kind of the Bernie of the group. Who would you pick?
Sure. Well, exactly. No, the thing of it is it's just getting out of hand, in my opinion. And I'm not the only one feeling this way. I hear it time after time after time. Like, why should we even vote? Because our vote really doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't even go on a popular vote. It goes electoral college. So, right. And of course, the Bush-Gore election proved that loud and clear.
Yeah, that was loud. That explanation of just how it works.
Well, exactly. Oh, we don't care if he won the popular vote. Well, the electoral college is all that matters. Well, what you're basically saying then is the popular vote means nothing. No. That means nothing. You just said that democracy means nothing in that way. That we cannot vote and make our voices heard. Sure, we can do it. It's great for grandstanding, great for show, whatever. But ultimately, we're going to make the decision.
Well, that's definitely it. I mean, it's the thing that's the reason for many, many years I did not vote.
Sure.
And it wasn't until I got a little bit older, especially when you have kids, you want to think the system's basically at the root of it decent, So, yeah, I mean, I voted as years went on and stuff, and I always vote locally because that's something that you really can affect.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But it's one of those things that, like you said, there's a reason why Americans feel isolated and cut off from their leaders, which is not so much even their leaders, they're your representatives.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, how often can you actually call or email your representative and have them actually respond and care?
Exactly. Well, I mean, in the time that we went and would advocate, like at the Senate, at the state level, and even in D.C., because we went and did that for epilepsy research.
Sure.
You would see them, but it was generally very much like a quick,
in and out,
like a con. Like you go, hey, how you doing? Quick picture, handshake, maybe say a little something, maybe give them a pamphlet. Next.
Yeah.
It was very, very mechanized, and
Yeah,
There was one that took more time. It would actually seem like they cared, but in the end, half the time they don't read their bills.
No.
They have pages that read their bills and go, "Oh, this, you should vote on blah blah blah."
Well, yeah,
because your constituency wants blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I wonder how many congressmen and people in the Senate actually sit there and read the bills themselves. Sit down and really read it for what it is and decide for themselves on what's best for their constituency.
I mean, all I know is I know what I saw, and the overwhelming majority of the people would come out. You'd be dealing with one person over there, and maybe you get like a quick little FaceTime with the senator, representative, or whatever, congressperson, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry, he has to go make a vote on so and so, and you're hearing him walk, and says, now remember, the parties like this and that, but we want any this and that. Yeah. So it's not like, what do you feel is best for America? It's like, okay, here's your card. Go, be part of the machine and do this.
Well, I think that's where term limits also comes into play. These career politicians, that's all they've done is run for office, and so they'll play ball to stay in as long as they possibly can. I think that's been.
I mean, and then he's from here.
Yeah,
and I hate the fact that. And don't get me wrong, I spoke to McConnell about epilepsy stuff, and he seemed cool with it. But it's a thing that, on the flip side, there's so much. It seems like, especially my part of the country, has been kind of kept sort of ignorant and simple.
Sure.
So, and it just seemed like it kind of, the only term I could use, it kind of retarded the growth of the state. So it made it to where, like you said, you become a kind of a laughingstock. But that, obviously Kentucky's not the only place it's like that. You have like Strom Thurmond, the guys like that had been in it forever.
Oh, ages and ages, man. I mean, it's just that was their job, was to be in office.
Right, and that's the thing, you see people talking about, Clinton's daughter stepping into a position where, she's, making all this much money and blah blah blah, and it made it to where it was. How do you explain that?
Well, yeah, no, they use that privilege that they have, that power that the rest of us do not have, and they got, their daughter Chelsea a cushy job with, nearly $1 million salary, and use their political influence to get it done. And on the other hand, they're screaming, about privilege. Well, heck, man, if that isn't privilege, what is? Why are you guys screaming about privilege when it's so obviously the other way around? Yeah, I mean, it's you guys are the ones using the privilege. You guys are the ones doing all this, and it's just not right.
I had, and which you'll be speaking with Clovis more here in a bit, our guest.
Yeah, I suppose we should announce our guest is tonight, man. I kind of got on the tirade about politics because before we hit air, I was reading yet another headline about, politics. It kind of burns my ass, so to speak.
Shut your hide.
Instead of dealing with our issues of America, we as a people would rather make it a popularity contest or watch the mud fly, whichever you want to call it, and not deal with the homeless, the starving, all the problems that we have in this country. No, we're worried about what someone said 11 years ago. We're worried about things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. Save us. Save this country before we go down in flames.
Right. Smoke and mirrors. And, and that's the thing is that, and I can't say that all on the left side, that all the left are all the bad guys. You see a lot of mudslinging from the right.
Exactly. So it's bipartisan.
Neither side are playing it at least publicly like they used to. They may have done this behind the scenes, but it's gotten to the point now where it's, like just a few steps under fighting out in the street over it. Well, no, that's not even true. At some of the rallies, obviously, there has been fighting in the street.
There has been. It got very violent very quickly. And that's why most of us feel so disenfranchised, because we don't have a real representative anymore. I mean, it used to be that you would meet your congressman of your area or your representative, and you can actually talk to him one-on-one. That's a thing of the past. Now it's all about voting. It's all about money. It's all about power. The really helping American people seems to have gone by the wayside, and that's a horrible, horrible thing, my friend.
Right. Well, I mean, you get to the point where, like you said, it's no longer for the people, by the people, and whatnot. It's sort of like for the pharmaceuticals, by the, war. I don't want to say war machine because I sound really hippie-ish, but the industrial complex, and to the point where the human equation is sort of out of it. It's all about profits, and it's all about this and that, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, it's hard not to get really disheartened with the whole thing.
Well, exactly. That's just it, and that's what it is too. You hit the nail right on the head with that one. But yes, we have a great guest on tap tonight. Go ahead, Steve. Tell everyone who we got tonight, man.
All right, we're gonna have Mr. Corvis Nocturnum. Man, I could not write that name. I'm doing good to write Steve, but I was educated in Kentucky, so.
Say that name, Corvis Nocturnum.
Nocturnum.
Wow, isn't that a cool name, Corvis Nocturnum? Now he's definitely different than what we're used to having on the show. He's gonna be kind of like a left turn, which is a good left turn. He's kind of into a little bit of everything. He in fact. He's a reverend, but not in the religion you would think.
This is right, and that's the thing. He's sort of a Renaissance man, and he's got his mind so far expanded into so many different directions. It's really neat to hear this guy talk about the things that he's into, and that was the thing. I originally had found him through they were working, or actually had just put out a DVD. That he'll tell you more about, and it kind of chronicles the history of vampirism through different cultures and the lore, and how as time it kind of went from being a monster through the modern age. Now it's just more of a seductive, it's not the gaunt, bloodless monster to this, sexy kind of empathic, overpowering, sensual creature.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, I didn't want to walk what you said, but I was watching just the clips for it. I'm like, this is great.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it is the Halloween season after all.
Exactly.
And so it definitely fits with what we're trying to do here. And because, boy, before you know it, will be Halloween, and I cannot believe it's already this late in October.
Man, yeah, send in the clowns. That's what I say.
Speaking of clowns, man.
Poor choice of words.
Yeah, did you hear that Ronald McDonald's taking a break?
No.
Yeah, he is. He is taking a break because of the evil clowns. Ronald McDonald takes a break due to creepy clowns around the U.S. McDonald's announced it would downplay the public role of Ronald McDonald in response to concerns about evil clowns kidnapping children around the United States.
Now, is that more for his safety, or is that I don't want to alarm children who are already frightened?
I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit of both.
Jeez Louise.
Maybe, you know what? No more pimping out burgers, That whole thing.
Wonder what he'll do with his off time.
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. Will he go fishing? Will he... They should have a video now. Of what he's doing with his off time, hanging out.
Where are they now? Episodes like on the VH1 stuff.
One. You know what? Where am the Grimace? The Fry Kids. I mean, seriously.
We don't mention Grimace.
Why not?
I don't know.
How about the Hamburglar? Whatever happened to him? Is he doing time as we speak?
I don't know. Maybe he joined the political race on one side or another. I'm not going to get into it.
Is there a possibility that is Donald Trump?
I don't think he's tall enough.
Do we really know, though? Do we really know?
Try the burger. You're going to love it.
You're going to like the burger. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be huge.
Oh, my God.
It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. You're going to just love it.
Love it.
You're going to love that burger right there. I'm telling you right now. Go ahead. You just go ahead and look at that burger. Man, I cannot remember the last time I have actually been to a McDonald's and actually said, wow, this is really good food.
I'm not going to lie. more than likely, the times I do go through there, I pretty much go, this won't be right.
No, I mean, it's just
not gonna be right.
Oh, it's just horrible. I mean, it just seems like it's gone downhill, so to speak, because of, for whatever reasons. Maybe they stopped using the kangaroo meat or something, but man, it's not right.
Jump right off the plate.
That's right. You didn't hear that. You didn't hear when I was a little kid, chicken nuggets were made of, according to my father, rest his soul, kangaroo meat.
Dude, I would eat more of them.
I would say, what do you mean kangaroo meat? You see the way they bounce and you throw them on the ground?
I don't know. My dad was pretty round. I've never seen him throw food down.
No?
So I never got that talk.
No, you never got the talk? You never got that guy? Not that talk? What was the sex talk like around your house growing up?
Get the hell out of the bathroom. That was usually it.
Out of the bathroom.
Sorry, pardon my language. No, we never had that, man. Come on, seriously.
Your mom and dad never sat you down and said, "Okay, Steve, we understand that you're 30 years old now, and you're curious how things work."
Come in here. Stop shaving for a second. Let me talk.
Wait, well, go get your son, would you? We want to talk to him too.
We'll cover all bases. No, I'll tell you how the sex talk happened with my pop. The closest thing to a sex talk I had. I was talking to a little girl that I was kind of dating, and in the next town over. So anyway, we're sitting there. My little nephew, his name's Joshua, went by the name of Gator because he was in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you and Gator,
Kentucky, we have nicknames like Skeeter and Gator.
Sure, local flavor. I got it, man.
So we're sitting out there talking on the back of a trailer, a little hitch, on a truck, and this little dude comes out. He's probably 3 or 4. Walks to the edge of the road, whips it out, and starts peeing, right? What are you doing, right? So I walk him into the house. So my dad's in there, and I'm like, man, can you keep him in here? So, well, what's wrong? He said, well, he's whipping it out, doing this and that, and, I'm trying to talk to this girl. He says, well, hey, maybe if you do that, she'll pay attention to you back. I'm like,
what?
Thanks, Huck. Thank you.
Yes, you're not helping at all. Well, the reason why I bring it up is I have a 9-year-old, almost 10. And I have been steadily now within the last year or so, watch this young man staring more and more at the opposite sex.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really staring now. He doesn't quite know why he likes girls. He just knows he likes them. And so I'm starting to dread that day where I have to sit him down and go, okay, this is how this works. I'm really dreading that day.
Man, don't make it weird. Honestly, don't make it weird.
How can it not be weird?
Well, how can you... Dude, I don't know. All right, look, I'm just saying. This is the way I would handle it. Okay? And I would say, look.
Tell me, the way that you handled it with Gator, right?
Okay. I'm just like, look, man. Girls are bumpy, and that's
Girls are bumpy. Oh, my God.
Okay. Look, hey, come on. I was still a young guy. I'm trying to explain it to him. So, look, girls are cool. They're kind of bumpy. It's all right. Okay? And that's normal. But you got to respect them, and you got to understand, it's a normal thing not to feel weird about it. But all things in time, don't rush things, But, we had tons of cousins and nephews that were having kids at 16, 17 years old. I said, do you want to be like Cousin Fez over there? Do you want to be like whatever? So, you don't want to be that guy. Yeah, Cousin Fez.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So I was just saying, this is something that's going to happen, but there's no need to rush it. But quit staring at them like a cheeseburger. They're going to slap you or think you're creepy.
Well, my problem is with him is he's not staring at girls his own age. He's going way up the ladder, if you know what I mean. He's really shooting for the stars. I'm talking like 16, 17-year-old girls. And it's oh, geez, man. You are already trying to, be out of your league. And so I'm watching him, right? I didn't notice this till the other day. God bless his soul. His name's Logan. Logan and me, we're going four-wheeling. So I'm taking a little guy four-wheeling, loves to go on the four-wheeler. Okay, let's go four-wheeling. We stop to buy gas for the four-wheeler, and we go in. And there's a nice, looking young lady behind the counter, a high school girl, whatever. I've known her for years. Hey, how you doing? Da-da-da-da. And there he is, almost salivating.
No.
I look over, I'm like, what is wrong with you, boy? Come on, let's go. Okay. And the whole way rubbernecking out the door, you know, head turning like Exorcist style to keep looking.
Well, man, I mean, you know, there's obviously that, because we were raised in a different time. You know, back when I was a young kid, boys would be boys and all that stuff. You know, I have 3 daughters now, and I've seen the other side of that.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm like, I pray to God they never meet a guy like me. So it's one of those things. I mean, at least not the way I was then. But it's hard to say. I mean, it might just be a thing, and he appreciates the finer things and thought she was a very lovely young lady. See how it goes.
Well, I am dreading that day, my friend, that I have to sit him down and go, okay, I can't rely on the public school system anymore to teach you anything. So, here we go. And don't you have any friends that you could talk to this about, first off? You know. But,
No, God, no.
you know how we all... Really, quite honestly, I never had the talk. What I had was you found out about it from friends of friends.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'll tell you this.
There was no talk.
When I married my wife Cheyenne, my dear sainted wife Cheyenne.
And is that when you gave her the sex talk?
All right. When I announced to my mom, I said, "Hey,
Hey.
I love you. I met a young lady. It's getting fairly serious. Well, it's getting real serious. I plan on marrying her." What was the first question she asked me?
She pregnant?
Give you a cigar. It's exact. I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" And I don't think so. No, I said, no, of course not. But you got to remember, I had some really roughneck brothers and sisters, and that was kind of one of those. That's
Sure.
You know, the Kentucky shotgun wedding.
Heck yeah, man. Kentucky's...
That's what you think.
You've heard the Kentucky jokes, right?
Dude, yeah, I'm sure I've
Yeah,
had
I
a few in
mean,
my family.
You know, you can't keep it, you know, keeping the family kind of thing. All those dumb jokes from Kentucky, or at least about Kentucky. Actually,
Right.
I found the people from Kentucky to be extremely nice, educated, fine folks. Not backward at all.
There's plenty. I mean, I'm from here.
That's every state, though, my friend. That's every state.
Right. Well, no, exactly right. And that's the thing. You're going to find more and less now anymore, less and less that it's pockets of educated, high-minded, eclectic tastes here and there, and like a sea of vastness. I mean, I've heard it described recently by people that, you know, that kind of were from New York's and California area, and this is like flyover country. It's more or less just it's fields and cows and stupid people milking.
That's
goats
right.
And
Flyover
right.
state.
Right. So, and that's cool. Keep flying, man. If you don't like it here, please don't land.
Yeah.
But more or less, you know, you do have that. Like you said, you know, even in smaller areas, like say where you're from, people have a certain mindset in a stereotypical lock on what they feel was there, and obviously it's just not that way.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I kind of generally take the jokes, and I was like, "That's pretty good," but I heard it went like this, and then they get a bigger laugh. Like, man, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, that's
And
a good one.
because you're telling jokes and you're from Kentucky.
I like how you added the sheep.
Yeah. You know, it was like, yeah, you know, it was really hard when I first got married because I couldn't, I couldn't sleep in the bed with my wife. They said, well, what's wrong? I said, well, you know, I was used to sleeping on sheets that had 2 eye holes in them, but it was bang. So, which obviously it wasn't that way, but that's good stuff.
Sorry, I'm laughing too hard. Sheets eye. Oh my God. On that note, we gotta go to break, man. We gotta get out of here. We come back. We're gonna get to what you came for, some terrifying, scary kind of stuff. We're gonna talk about the worst serial killers to ever live. Don't go anywhere. Be right back right after this.
Your ideas, work, and creativity that make it your yard. At Ace, we're here to help with hoses and sprinklers to nurture growth, gardening tools for the shape of good things to come, even the right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at Ace, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. Ace,
The helpful place.
Anavar Media LCC is a dedicated team of professionals committed to helping business development scale and protect their websites, mobile applications, enterprise software solutions in the Northeast Ohio area. Locally owned since 2012, our client-centered values truly sets Anavar apart. Contact us today to learn how you can get 25% off your first project. Call them at 234-380-4852. Again, that's 234-380-4852, or visit them at www.anavar.com. Again, that's www.anavar.com.
Hi, I'm Kip Parker.
And I'm Charlie Parker.
And we're the Parker Brothers. Hey, Charlie, what's missing from our game catalog?
I don't know, Kip, tell me.
Well, you can't talk to the dead.
You sure as hell can.
That's why we got this brand new game called Ouija.
Ouija? Why? Break that down for me.
Well, it's Wii because you're having a great time, and G, it's because G, aren't you having a blast because you're having a good time with the Wii?
It looks like it spelled like a Chinaman got caught in there.
Don't question it.
Well, Ouija, Kip, tell me about it.
Well, inside the package comes a flat board with all the letters of the alphabet, numbers from 0 to 9, and a yes-no written out by itself.
Well, that sounds like a lot of stuff going on.
It's got a lot of stuff going on indeed, Charlie. It also comes with this planchette which hovers over the letters the dead are trying to tell you.
Well, how does that work, Chip?
Well, you ask the question, and then the dead move your hands in the direction of the answers.
That sounds like a heck of a way to find Grandpa's slave money.
Turns out it was in the attic. But the questions don't have to be as serious as slavery. You can also find out if Sally's got a crush on you. The dead like to answer all sorts of trivial questions.
Feels like they'd have better things to do with their time, Kip.
No, lost souls are lost forever, and they're really glad to help.
Well, gee, Kip, can't you just get any sort of board with numbers and letters and talk to the dead?
The dead prefer quality like anybody else. Quality you can only find at Parker & Parker.
The Ouija board, brought to you by the Parker Brothers, available in both white and colored wallworks. Separate but equal savings.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com.
Rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
It's your real precious, you will get the hose.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Steve Asher.
Hey, Steve, man. You know, I don't know if, did you hear last Thursday night's show with forensic psychologist Clarissa Cole?
Yeah, it was freaking awesome.
And we talked about Ed Gein and why, in her mind, he was not a serial killer. Because he was more mentally ill than he was a serial killer, and he didn't have the body count. And there's a lot of reasons why she gave that he is not a serial killer. And of course, you can catch Clarissa Cole, Dr. Clarissa Cole, the first Thursday of every month. Of course, right here on After Hours AM, we cover different serial killer. But I came across a list. The list, according to, this is, what is this, the top 25 list. This is BuzzFeed.com, giving us the worst serial killers ever. Like, ever. There's 25 of them. Obviously, we're not going to go through all 25 of them. But right. The worst of the worst, so we'll just start with, well, I guess their worst of the worst, which is David Berkowitz. You know him, don't you?
Oh, Son of Sam, of course.
That's right, known as Son of Sam or the 44 caliber killer. Berkowitz carried out a series of shootings in the summer of 1976 using a 44 caliber Bulldog revolver. He shot 6 people dead and wounded 7 others. Wow, Berkowitz was sent... let's see, Berkowitz sent a series of taunting letters to the police and press promising further shootings. And, of course, we all know what happened. He got caught, and he got sentenced 25 years to life in prison. But
I'm surprised he didn't get caught before that, because this is like, what, 76, 77, you said?
Yeah, yep.
Could you imagine how loud him running down the street in, like, corduroy bell-bottoms? How would you not care? Yeah.
a fire would ensue. Oh, that was always the bad part about corduroy. My mom would make me wear it, and I hated it. I hated wearing corduroy. It was the worst thing ever.
There's nothing worse than a sad fat boy. And I'm talking about myself. A sad fat boy in corduroy because it held every bit of heat.
Exactly, every bit of heat, and then you're always worried about ignition. You know.
Did you say ignition or admission?
Ignition, as in fire ignition. While you ran too fast. You got like two sticks being rubbed together. You know, that whole thing. Okay, number 2. The next one on here is Edmund Kemper, known as the Co-Ed Killer. Edmund Kemper is an American serial killer, and he is a necrophile who carried out a series of brutal murders in California in the 1970s. He murdered his own grandparents when he was 15 years old. Wow, and then later killed and dismembered 6 female hitchhikers. Oh my God, he is nasty.
That's rough.
Wow, man. And then you have, we got Larry Bittaker and Roy Norris. I guess they were a tag team duo.
Right.
Lawrence and Roy, nicknamed the Toolbox Killer, are two of America's worst serial killers who together murdered 5 young women in California in 1979, luring their victims into their van and driving them to a secluded area where they would both rape them, then torture and horrifically murder them.
Where does that start? You're sitting there. It was just like 70-something. So you're sitting there watching, whatever the
Partridge Family hanging out.
Yeah, not Mork and Mindy. Like what was like the big '77 show?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Some television drama or something.
You're watching whatever it is, Barney Miller or whatever. Minding your own business, and next thing you know, boop, dead.
Well, then the thing is, where did it start? Somebody was sitting there going, you know what? You know what would be a fun weekend? Let's grab us a couple of these little hitchhikers, have our way with them, and, just start slaughtering them.
Yeah, we'll have a great weekend.
It's like it's a Wednesday thing.
Exactly. Let's just start doing this all the time. And then one serial killer I actually met was Dennis Rader. I actually knew him.
Wow.
Yeah, he's on the list. Dennis Rader murdered 10 people in Sedgwick County, Wichita. I used to live in Wichita, Kansas. And I have a story. I ran into him a couple times, this guy. Between 1974 and 1991, obsessed with notoriety, Rader sent taunting letters of police under the name BTK, which stood for Bind, Torture, Kill. Rader stalked his victims before breaking into their homes, then binding their limbs, before strangling them.
Yikes.
Wow. Having disappeared for several years, he reemerged in 2005 when he sent a floppy disk to the press, which was his downfall. They were able to trace him via the floppy disk by the computer signature.
If he would have held on to that a little bit longer, they couldn't even freaking read it.
Yeah, exactly. You should have just waited a couple more years. It was what the hell's this when it came in the mail? Right. Like what? What do we do with this? Where does this go again? Does anyone have a really old computer laying around? I mean, seriously, really? That's how you get caught? I think arrogance gets these people caught more than anyone realizes.
And I've heard that too, which I believe it was Clarissa Cole had said a lot of times there is that subconscious element of wanting to get caught. But I do also, maybe deep down there is an element of humanity. But I kind of agree with you. I'm thinking more often it's just they got too cocky and.
Have you ever run into someone that murdered someone else? Did you ever know a killer?
Oh, I worked at the Kentucky State Penitentiary, of course I did.
Okay. Now, you working there, and of course you don't have to name names, but did you find them to be cold, calculating murderers, or were they just a bunch of kind of cowards?
Well, it depends on the level of murder. I mean, if you had a guy who was in a bar brawl, or a guy who somebody was jumping on his sister and he beat the crap out of him, and the guy ended up dying from the injuries, these had been generally normal working stiffs and blue collar guys, and they're just guys that went, hey, this is just a second out of, I could have went this way or that way, but my rage got the better of me and protecting this and that. It's almost if you want to say that, almost a noble murder, righteous anger. But then you have those guys. It's like, so I went to the screen door and and they have this long line of started chopping heads off like daisies, and
wow,
that's the ones that you go, geez, I'm crow, buddy. You're just like, yeah, okay. I want to know where that guy's at night.
Well, I imagine working at night in the prison couldn't have been all that fun.
Right. Well, yeah, like I said, I did a lot on mornings, because of, kids' special needs and doctor's appointments. So that's mainly when I was in there. And it's so funny because that's when the guys talk. Yeah. And that's when you hear the little stories about this and that. And it's just like, okay, yeah, I've got to make sure this guy never gets out of here.
Now, were you ever instructed to keep your ears open in case there's a cell-type confession going on?
Well, it's one of these things that a verbal confession, especially to line staff, it could be for 100 different reasons, but obviously if you've heard something going on, like somebody kind of down a hallway, they don't know you're on the walk, and it's talking about, well, yeah, we're going to go do this and that to Captain blah blah in the morning. Well, of course you'd pass it on because, Brothers in Blue and all that, and you don't want to see anybody get hurt, or if they're maybe talking about killing another guy because they owe them money for God knows what.
Or Snickers. Yeah.
Snickers and cigarettes.
Snickers and cigarettes, that's all you're worth to me in here. That's our currency.
That was like Mike Tyson in prison or something.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Just give me my Snickers now, come on.
Where's my Snickers
Don't make me punch you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay, moving on now. Yes. Arthur Shawcross, known as the Green River Killer. Shawcross first killed in 1972, sexually assaulted and murdered a 10-year-old boy after luring him into the wooded area in Watertown, New York. Then raped and killed 8-year-old girl, for which he was captured and convicted of manslaughter, serving 14 years imprisonment. He was released in 1988 and went on to brutally kill 12 female prostitutes.
Right.
Oh, my God. Aged between 22 and 59 years old. Eventually captured, sentenced for the last murders. I'm trying to see whether they killed him or not. I do not believe he was sentenced to 250 years imprisonment. Why not just kill these people at that time? 250 years imprisonment. Just kill them.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things where, being that I was in law enforcement, you have to go, personal feelings aside, you're there to exact, the law and see that the conditions are met. But every molecule in my daddy body says, kill it. Kill him immediately.
Yeah.
That would.
Yeah.
A lot of those stories like that, thank God they didn't. They kind of knew where I was at. So if anybody did anything like really small kid stuff, they stayed away from me.
Yeah, well, in the prison, I have heard that people that do victimize children do not last that long.
No, generally not. You have to be. There's another facility that has what they. I'm not the exact term of it now is, but you would go in there for like sexual re-education class to where basically it's almost like a 12-step program or something.
It's a segregation, though, to keep them safe to some extent, isn't it?
Oh, yes, for sure. Exactly, because that's the thing. You're in there for, I don't know, auto theft or something like that. It's still a crime.
Oh, yeah. But
sometimes a violent crime, but you didn't rape a kid.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I'd like to think that even there should be honor amongst criminals.
Oh, sure. I mean, like I said, there are generally lines that just aren't crossed. And don't get me wrong, I have even had, and I want to, because I know you want to tell these other stories. I'd seen where guys working in like mailroom and stuff, seeing where like inmates were writing other inmates in other prisons with like fantasy type stories about killing little kids, and then they'd add something back, and maybe they would draw photos and all this stuff. And of course, it never left the mailroom, and then they got charges for sending that kind of stuff. But
wow, man, wow,
deviants.
Okay, the next one we have on our list is Richard Ramirez.
Oh, yes.
Was an American serial killer and Satan worshiper who terrorized Los Angeles between 1984 and 1985. Nicknamed the Night Stalker, Ramirez broke into the home of many of his victims, shooting, stabbing, and raping and mutilating his victims, who ranged between the ages of 9 years old and a married couple aged into their late 60s. Notably, he was pretty much a kind of a cocky and arrogant murderer. Even in court, he tried to act like the rock star serial killer, but he was sentenced. He was on California's death row for, get this, 23 years he sat on death row. What, are they waiting for cancer to kill him first or something? Until he died in a cell he died in a cell in June 2013.
Yeah, probably with a full belly.
I mean, come on, seriously. How long do they let these people sit there in death row? That's ridiculous.
Something you got to think about too, Joe. And I'll say, did you know early on that he was a body double for Lou Diamond Phillips?
Did not know that. Really?
That's a lie. But
okay, that was a lie. Good.
This is the truth. He had so much mail, so many women wanting him to marry him, so many women like going, I wish you could break out and you could kill me and strangle me. He had so much action like that. I mean, he never wanted for anything in the prison system.
Do you
Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of sick, do you remember that story that broke? I want to say about a year ago, a guy in Germany that ate another person. That the person he ate was consenting to be eaten. Did you ever hear that story?
Was this almost like in a hostel or something like that?
Yeah. Do you remember where the guy put out an ad on Germany's version of Craigslist? Hey, someone that wants to come get eaten, contact me. And he actually
it said?
Yeah, he actually had a taker on it, right? And so the victim comes to this guy's house. They drink together. They do whatever together. And then not only, and this is going to get graphic and gruesome here, so just the disclaimer here. Not only does he eat his victim, but his victim eats himself with him until he died of blood loss.
Christ.
So guess what they ate first? Again, kids, cover your ears.
Okay, knowing what I know about the prison and men, and I would say the penis.
Yep, they cut his penis off, filleted it, and fried it in butter. And they both dined on it.
You really want to steam a penis. It's very
You really don't want to steam. That'd be one mad penis. It's steamed. Urgh! No, but that is meaning, talk about sick and twisted. I know that's not a serial killer, but my Lord, could you imagine being the guy to answer? What kind of sick person would answer an ad like that? Wanted, a person that wants to be eaten. I mean,
dude, how did it even get? When it was submitted? Do they not have moderators on this?
Well, I'm not sure, but then again, the German country, the country of Germany, has no idea how to charge them because it was consensual. It was, hey, he even wrote in paperwork, this person, I will hereby let you, do what you will. And
I'm stammering over it, but it's like, okay, think of it like this. All right, say we got together, and you're like, I'm a little squirrely, I want you to peel me like a potato, and we'll make some pork rinds out of my back fat. Okay, cool. Not what same person, and that's messed up that I just wrote off of that. That's bad. But it's, obviously, this person has issues. Obviously, the person, they would almost have to look at his previous mental health.
Yeah.
And especially if it showed that this person had previous histories of psychosis. You'd almost have to okay, well, how can I eat a person and get away with it? Okay, can you pass us a background check? Okay, it shows at the time that I'm eating the person, they were perfectly sane. They just wanted to get chomped on.
Well, exactly. I just don't understand why anybody would ever even answer anything like that. In fact, I'm looking for the actual story here now. I open up this can of worms. Okay, here it is. Here's the actual press story. Victim of cannibal agrees to be eaten. To the family next door, Armin Mewis seemed to be the perfect neighbor. He mowed their lawn, repaired their car, and even invited them around for dinner. Other residents of the small German town of Rottenburg also believed there was nothing odd about the 42-year-old man, the 42 computer engineer, who he liked to stay up. They called him light burned late into the night kind of guy. Well, okay, here let me get to the real meat of the matter, so to speak. Yesterday, however, Mewes appeared in court charged with killing and then frying and eating another man.
That's just not healthy.
No, in one of the most extraordinary trials in German criminal history, the self-confessed cannibal admitted that he had met the 43-year-old Berlin engineer Bernard Burns after advertising on the internet and had chopped him up and eaten him. God, it was said something he has said that is something that he has wanted to do for a long time. I always had the fantasy, as in we're talking as from the killer's perspective, in filleting and eating another human. It really fulfills my greatest passion. Mewes tells the court on the first day of his trial for murder in the nearby city of Kassel. Yesterday, German prosecution described how Mewes had fascinated about killing and devouring someone, including his classmates from the age of 8.
Wow. So that could have popped off really
Yeah,
well.
the desire grew stronger after the death of his mother in 1999. Prosecutors, he also went on to say he wishes he would have had the chance to eat his mother.
Okay, that's what I was waiting for.
Yes.
Sort of
in March 2001, Mewes advertised on the internet for a young, well-endowed man he wanted to be eaten. Wow, man. Wow. Burns replied, on that evening, March 9th, the two men went up to the bedroom of Mewes, rambling, and they were rambling, timbered farm. I am so rattled this story as I'm reading it. Yeah, it's actually hard to read it.
Listen to this.
Yeah, I know, rambling, timbered farmhouse. Oh, wow, Wow. Okay, get this. Mr. Burns swallowed 20 sleeping tablets and a half a bottle of schnapps before Mewes cut Burns' penis off. Again, everyone, if you are squeamish, do not listen to this.
That's rough.
And with his agreement, fried it for both of them to eat. Burns, by this stage, bleeding heavily, then took a bath, while Mewes read a Star Trek novel, waiting for him to die. In the early hours, I know, in the early hours of the morning, he finished off his victim by stabbing him in the neck with a large kitchen knife, kissing him first. Wow.
Do you understand how this crosses so many weird...
The cannibal... I'm not done. The cannibal then chopped Burns into pieces, putting several of the bits of him into our freezer for the next day's pizza. At
least he wasn't wasteful.
Well, exactly. Buried the skull in the garden. Over the next few weeks, he defrosted and cooked parts of Mr. Burns in olive oil and garlic, eventually consuming 20 pounds of human flesh before police and family turned up at his door.
You know what it makes it like I was saying, it crosses so many lines. It's sort of like Red Shoe Diary. It should be called like Red Shoe Diaries. Oh my God,
it's just horrible. Behind bars, Mewes told detectives that he had consumed his victim with a bottle of South African red wine, and had got him. Wow. I gotta stop reading this, man, because now he's getting into what cuts a mediate.
This guy, he was very, very like a student of cannibalism, and
yes.
I was waiting you to say he ate them with fava beans.
I know it, and he just gets into it, and it's starting to even rattle the reader here. My lord. I mean, could you imagine that happening to a relative of yours?
I can't even begin to, no.
But what's worse is Muse, he made a videotape of the whole event.
Oh. Seriously?
He videotaped the whole event.
Did he treat it, was it like an instruction video? Was he going to like sell it to other cannibals?
No, he would watch the video and pleasure himself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, two behind the ear. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so...
You can't fix that.
That is just, yeah. And then after killing Burns, the German cannibal met 5 other men who responded to his internet ad, including one from London. He did not, however, kill them because he says in his own words, I was just too full.
Oh, wow. I wonder, you read me the thing, though.
Oh.
Because I'm thinking, he's like, well-endowed man to be in my mouth. Maybe he's like, they thought it was another direction. And
Yeah.
First.
Yeah. If convicted, Muse faces life in prison. A verdict is due early next year. The cannibal's defense team, however, says that Muse is guilty at worst of killing on demand, which is punishable only by 5 years in jail. In his pre-trial interview, the cannibal said that after eating Burns, he felt much better and more stable.
And what does that say about him? I mean, was he trying to go through the defense of going, well, I have a chemical imbalance. I
just don't understand. I just don't understand. He says that Burns spoke good English. He said on video that he gives Muse the complete, giving him permission to eat him on video as well as in writing. He is also working on his memoirs. The murderer is. Are you kidding me? I mean, I wish I never would have found this article, to be honest with you.
Christ, yeah. You tell me I come up with dark stuff.
Oh my God! Here I am reading the whole thing. Hey, by the way, he filleted his pee-pee and he ate it. Yeah. Oh my God, man! Wow, that's just bad.
Oh, that's way beyond the pale. I mean, oh my God, I don't know what to say after that. I honestly don't.
That makes me feel dirty.
That was a jacked up story. That was a messed up story, Joe.
That is a messed up. We're both speechless over here. I mean, would you ever ask? But I mean, come on. What normal individual would answer an ad like that?
I would have thought that maybe one of them was like one of the people that maybe responded was maybe like a detective or somebody, or maybe like a person researching a horror movie. That should be a horror movie.
It should be, but it'd be just too damn gruesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would be like a grindhouse type.
It would be something. I mean, here again, real life is much scarier than fiction.
Right. Because we're walking past these guys every day.
Yeah, every day. You don't know who they are. You don't know who's killed who. You don't know if the guy sitting next to you at Starbucks is a cannibal.
No.
Can you imagine defrosting him as you go to make dinner?
Honey, take a pound out, would ya? Can you go ahead and take can you take some of that ground meat out?
Right. Well, and that's the thing, it's like, I hope they processed them right, or otherwise you might get freezer burns.
You're worried about food prep over there. No, I like to use a food saver. Because,
like vacuum sucks all the air out.
Exactly. Exactly. This is how you do it. You want to make sure you cut with the meat.
Right. Cut with the grain. It'd be like, here, honey, I need to freeze the penis. Well, here's a quart bag. No, honey, we're not going to need the gallon.
Yeah, we're going to need the gallon bag, honey.
We need the hefty.
We need the big one. Yeah. But my Lord, we got to get out of here, play some Fox News. But man,
walk that off.
Just think about that.
I don't want to.
Corvis Nocturnum next, and we come back from the Fox News. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about a much lighter subject like Satanism. Don't go anywhere.
Fox News Radio, I'm Kathleen Maloney. Democrat Hillary Clinton thinks this election will draw more voters to the polls.
I think Americans want to turn out in as big a number as possible to reject the dark and divisive and hateful campaign that is being run by my opponents.
Clinton speaking at a voter registration event in Pueblo, Colorado. Is the Clinton camp sounding a little too confident about winning the presidential race? Fox's Gernal Scott has a live report.
And Kathleen, Hillary Clinton's communications director Jennifer Palmieri reacted to the Clinton campaign on the Clinton campaign plane, saying a Clinton statement of, quote, "I'm not going to lose," is a reflection of the nationwide effort and the perception people have of the campaign.
This has been a very volatile race, and we're running against a very volatile candidate.
Palmieri says, if anything, Clinton's statement has energized Democrats. Palmieri also dismissed a WikiLeaks email release of her being critical of Catholics, saying the release was a hack by the Russians. Kathleen.
Thanks, Gernal. If Donald Trump is worried about recent controversies and sinking poll numbers, he's not letting on.
Hillary's dying with her crowds. You know, they have to fill in the seats. You see the crowd she had yesterday? And you saw the crowds that we're getting all over, every place, not just in Florida, no matter where we go, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and it's a movement like they've never seen before.
Trump speaking at a rally in Lakeland, one of two he held today in the battleground state of Florida. Wells Fargo's CEO is stepping down in a scandal over the bank's sales practices. John Stumpf is retiring immediately and giving up his title as chairman. The bank says he's also forfeiting over $40 million in stock awards. You're listening to Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced. A gang member is charged in the killing of two Palm Springs police officers. John Hernandez Felix faces first-degree murder and more.
Attached to these two murder charges are special circumstance allegations. There are three of them. The murder of a police officer in the line of duty, multiple murder, and the special circumstance of lying in wait.
Riverside County DA Mike Heston says Felix is accused of deliberately attacking the officers for no reason except to kill cops. A lively reception at the White House for Hispanic Heritage Month.
Traditions, food, music, of course, from Colombia and Cuba, Dominican Republic, countries across Central America, South America. You know, it's woven into our daily lives. And, of course, I'm going to get to Mexico.
President Obama says last year Latinos had the fastest income growth and the biggest drop in poverty of any group in the U.S. Another retailer reporting a breach.
Vera Bradley, the maker of colorful purses and accessories, says its payment system was hacked at its retail stores. It's still investigating the breach, but says it happened at stores only between July 25th and September 23rd of this year. Vera Bradley says online transactions were not affected. The company says there was unauthorized access to the company's payment processing system. A program had been installed that was looking for payment card information. Ginny Cosola, Fox News.
It was tough finding work in August. The Labor Department says job openings dropped nearly 7% to the lowest number in 8 months. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News Radio.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Steve Asher.
Hey, man, we got a killer guest tonight. Why don't you tell the audience who we got?
Are you talking about me? Well,
yeah, I'm talking about you.
I thought you were going to let him introduce himself. Mr. Corvis Nocturnum.
Mm-hmm. And
I hope I'm not butchering that.
No, actually, you're better than most people who mangle it to death. I've written under the pen name Corvis Nocturnum for over a decade, and only in the last couple of years have I been also including my given legal name, E.R. Vernor, to some of my titles, because obviously I'm doing a lot more radio programs and some TV appearances, so I kind of want to merge the two together so I don't lose my old fans, but then also so I look a little more not like a nut job, you know.
Tells into the next. Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. We already talked about nut jobs and we covered the cannibal.
God, didn't we?
You know, so don't worry, you're in good company. I mean, because we're both nut jobs. But all joking aside, you're a very prolific writer. I mean, you have a lot of good stuff out there. You cover a lot of different genres. I mean, I like your vampire stuff as well. I also like the new documentary. Why don't you tell us about the new documentary you have coming out?
Well, it kind of came about for multiple reasons. I've been a good friend of Michelle Belanger for over a decade. She wrote the introduction in my first book when her first book of all of them ever came out, and she's just as prolific and a great public speaker. For those of you who don't know, she was a psychic on Paranormal State on A&E. She's a singer and been writing a lot of metaphysical books and recently fiction. So we have a lot of similar interests. We have a lot of working relationship in the past. I publish a lot of her stuff on Dark Moon Press. And because we do so many panels through like Scarefest and Dragon Con and places like that, not everybody who is our fan can manage to make it to these great big conventions, Yeah, they're expensive to get to, and the hotels and travel and everything. So I was kind of brainstorming with her, why don't we do something for people that can't come out, or might want to have an even more detailed look at the stuff that we've written about in several books that her and I have done. Like I did Allure of the Vampire, Our Sexual Attraction to the Undead a few years ago. Schiffer Publishing put out Vampire Evolution from Myth to Modern Day, and we kind of brainstormed and said, why don't we just put together content from the different conventions we've done, and I actually did an interview with her. You'll see it on the trailer, the ad that's on Facebook right now, where her and I are just discussing where is the vampire going in fiction into the future, and I got together members of the living vampire community to talk to me. And, we thought, why not put it out as a DVD documentary for people to buy? So if they can't make it to Dragon Con from halfway across the country and spend a couple $1,000, they can just drop $20-25 in, PayPal and get it within a week.
Yeah, and enjoy reading a really good book or watching a really good documentary and really diving into the vampire. Now, that's a great subject because we've seen everything from the Nosferatu vampire to the Eurotrashy vampire to the Brad Pitt vampire. It seems like the vampire has taken such evolutions over the years, but there's still a lot of people in this world, a lot of cultures that really believe that the vampire existed.
It's funny you say that because I get messages on my Facebook page so bad to the point where I had to pretty much put myself on invisible, even though I always like talking to my fans, because I get these nut jobs who will write to me and say, you must have learned something over all your years of research. How can I become a real vampire? And I'm like, well, you can't. They're talking the fiction, folklore, drink blood, live forever type thing, and they're not even in the realm of the psychic vampire or the living vampire community in whatever flavor that you wish to, label them as. And that's a whole subculture identity group all by itself that could be an hour program just discussing that aspect. But we do cover it in the documentary.
Vampirism. I mean, there are people out there like psychic vampires, people that do partake in blood drinking, which is a different thing altogether. But I have had people even contact the radio show where we've had, people that, Anne Rice, for instance, we had her on the show one time, and they were, oh boy, how can we become a real vampire? Folks, It's fiction. That vampire that you're thinking of, the alluring European vampire, it's a Bram Stoker deal. You have to understand this is not real, but a lot of people I've noticed really want it to be. It's almost like they're trying to will it to be real.
Yeah, if I had that secret, I'd be using it myself. I wouldn't be scared.
Live forever, man. Look great forever. Just stay on the sun.
Yeah.
I'm doing that now anyway.
Well, yeah, that is true. You are doing that now. But are you preparing, Steve, for your next incarnation as a vampire?
No, man. I don't want to be an eternal fat guy with a receding hairline. I'll pass. I'll just play it out like it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like you were talking about, like a lot of the Anne Rice books and stuff, and they were talking about, how they had the people that studied the vampire and studied all of Lestat's books, and that woman kind of had that draw. And then when it kind of got to the point, then she was afraid. I think there's that thing of playing with fire, and you're really drawn to it, but ultimately it's not going to probably end like you want it to. I wonder how many people that Corvis has spoken to. Have you had anybody who maybe did try to go that route and maybe was under somebody, that was like, well, sure, I can do this for you, that either was scammed or was mistreated or anything like that? Do you ever get those type follow-up stories, or is it always just the people, please give me the secret, give me the, eternal?
No, I haven't. I've been fortunate that my stalkers, as opposed to my fans who legitimately buy my books and enjoy what I do, in a sane way, I've only had the encounter indirectly with someone who was that obsessed, and it does tie directly in with you guys talking about Anne Rice, is the case of Rod Farrell. His mother contacted me and wanted me to write a book on his defense, and the more digging and research I did into the case, I had to write her back. I got her to sign releases for all the poetry and photos and everything she sent to me of Rod's. And it's like, look, I thank you for the contributions and the idea and us discussing it, but I didn't sign a contract with you. I cannot write a book that defends what he did, or to even slightly get him off the hook to get him out of prison, because I honestly don't believe that there is any mitigating circumstances in his case. And of course, she wasn't happy, but I still own all of that stuff, and I'm going to be using it because she signed a release for me to use it as I see fit. When myself and another co-writer who's a lawyer and into the classic horror type stuff, Kevin Eads, is going to be co-writing a book with me where each chapter talks about a U.S. Supreme Case Court analysis, like the West Memphis 3, Rod Farrell, things like that, where we're going to be trying to educate the public, from me as an occult writer and researcher and him as a law professor, that we can take these massive, cases of people that have done things or reportedly have done things, because I was advocating the West Memphis 3 be freed before Damien Echols, was let out, fortunately.
Yeah.
Because people don't honestly understand that Satanists, vampires, witches, whatever, voodoo practitioners, that they have the equal rights as anybody else to practice as they see fit. And sometimes they get accused of crimes simply because the paranoia and small-minded mentality of the cities they live in, and they go to prison forever. And some of them are guilty, some of them are not. And we're just trying to clarify the findings and realities of those individual cases in occult crimes and
That sounds really interesting, to be honest with you. Now, for the benefit of our listeners, Rod Farrell, he was a member of the loose-knit gang of teenagers from Murray, Kentucky, known as the Vampire Clan. In 1998, Farrell pleaded guilty to a double slaying of a couple from, was it Houston? Houston, Florida, becoming the youngest person in the United States on death row. So, and what a story.
To tell you guys the truth, we deliberately did not include him or any mention of vampire-related crimes in the documentary, simply because we don't. There's already enough of a confusion in the general public on what the living vampire, people that dress up, in the garb or whatever, go to clubs. Whether you want to call them goths or not, they're not. Some of them might cross into both subcultures. But we didn't want to portray even the risk of portraying the people that we knew to the general public as, oh, they're connected to this psycho killer guy.
Yeah. You can't use that broad of a brush. Yeah, I mean, you just can't do that.
All the time. Well, I was just going to say that happens a lot because, like you said, especially in an area, being from Western Kentucky, people make, like you said, sweeping generalizations, and one person that they think halfway knows what's going on, what they say is gospel. I actually kind of bumped into Rod Farrell probably a year before all that went down. Okay. We were in Murray, and I mean, we're definitely not friends. Me and my wife were down there. We were having to pick up something from another store. She was a general manager of a restaurant, and we went to I think it was like the Hardee's or something in there, and we saw these kind of quirky looking kids sitting in a corner at Hardee's at like 2 a.m. or something, and they kind of looked up at us on the way out, and I kind of just threw my hand up. I mean, I was a young guy. I didn't know what was up. I just said, "Hey, Dracula," and I walked on out. I didn't think anything about it. And right, exactly. That was stupid, right? So, but it was a thing where I was a young guy, and I was like, "Okay, he's a goth guy, whatever." So we went on, and then as all this played out in Florida and everything, I was like, "Oh my God, we met that guy." There's a place called LBL, Land Between the Lakes, and I'm sure you've heard about the Vampire Hotel down there.
Yeah.
No, what is that, Steve? Well, what is the Vampire Hotel in the LBL?
Well, okay, Land Between the Lakes, there was an area that Rod and his kind of little cabal of friends would meet up and party and all this stuff. It was just sort of a local stoner spot and getting drunk and partying and acting a fool and all that. And supposedly, and again, this is where that line blurs, and that's where, unfortunately, people that perform legitimate rites get lumped in with this. Said they were doing like certain satanic rites and blah blah blah.
Interesting. Okay.
And so it's a very very quirky area. It's definitely got a weird feel to it, which I mean, it's a very old LBL is a very old area, which I mean I'm sure Corvis probably could explain it better than I can.
Right. That's one of the things that I've tried to do throughout my 12-year career as a writer and public speaker is try to explain the realities of what the people that are into these sort of lifestyles, religions, or philosophies, what are they really about? How can we not condemn them for being different?
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up a kid that was beat up, pale, didn't do sports, I wore black clothes. I was, one loony bin away from being the Columbine kid, but I didn't go that route because that's not who I am.
Yeah.
But so many other people, I understand why they might snap. And, not excusing those people at all, but, I've been the subject of ridicule and of bullying as a kid, and I know that I'm different. I know I've always been into, everything from Dark Shadows to, whatever. And, you can embrace all this stuff and alternative things and be a rational, sane human being. I got lucky in being able to turn my love of everything kind of macabre and turn it into a great career as a writer and now filmmaker. So, now I'm trying to launch a television show into the paranormal world and, stuff like that. It's because I have different interests.
Yeah.
But not everybody has that advantage.
That's a best revenge situation, too. I mean, and I know there's a certain point where you kind of let go of the grudges maybe that you had in high school or middle school or whatever, and the best revenge is living well. And I love hearing that from you because, like you said, I kind of grew up like that myself, and it's one of those situations. Just like you talked about the Columbine kids, I never had any plans or anything like that, but kids make really bad decisions. Kids get into situations, get amped up in situations, and ultimately pay for a split-second decision a lot of times. I'm not excusing what those kids did, but like you said,
honestly, I hope that in some way over the years, and I've gotten a few letters from parents and kids that I have helped them understand each other, and that was a highlight for me, just getting that in my post office box of, hey, thank you for writing your first book. I really understand my child better. We get along now.
Yeah.
Well, now, years and years later, that same kid that she was talking about is now in college becoming a professor to teach other people.
Sure.
And yet he would have been an outcast before.
Well, it kind of seems also like there's a lot of fear of the unknown. It's a lifestyle that people are afraid of because they don't necessarily embrace it.
Yeah. And, I find it enjoyable, and I understand there are some people that go off the deep end. But the general stereotypical white bread American wandering down the street is going to see somebody from Marilyn Manson's height of fame to all the way up to now and go freak, I think that's really sad that those people who are already feeling like rejects from society, it just makes them even more buried and resentful.
Well,
it just adds.
It seems like it polarizes them, and it gives them that, like you said, once you dehumanize somebody, as I understand, just dealing with people in prisons and stuff, you go, okay, I am not one of you. So by being one of you, I'm not subject to your laws and rationales and mores. I'll do what I need to do.
It really sets up a real us and them scenario.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I went to college late in life because I wanted to make sure it's something I wanted to do. So I pursued business management at first. Got my degree in that, and that helped me run my publishing company better. And being a put out author, you kind of have to run it as a business, to do well with it. And then I decided to re-enroll and go back in for criminal justice. So that's how I was able to take the information that I had and put it in thought, at least anyway, on how I could try to help law enforcement reach out to kids who are, to them potentially troublemakers and everything. And there's not a big vampire community in Fort Wayne, Indiana. There's not that much of a goth community anymore. But I've helped out the pagan people by speaking at different conventions in 3 different states. So all these different cultures definitely do have a lot of overlap, and I think the biggest reason I've found over the years is because they all feel like they're outcasts. They're the other.
Yeah, that they're not accepted by their family or their peers. They're kind of that weird kid. At least that's how they feel anyway at the time. Because as you're trying to figure out who the hell you are in life, there's a lot of changes in ourselves as we go. And we don't always settle on who we're going to become until later on in life. And some of us just never do. And some of us, unfortunately, become radio hosts. But after that happens, and you end up being what you are, and you kind of get your path set in life, and you keep going, there's still, even in the adult world, there's still that us and them mentality a lot of times of different people. We used to call them eccentric if they're rich, but if they're poor, they're just weird. Now, the weird people aren't necessarily bad people. They're just misunderstood. Just because it is a culture that you embrace as adults doesn't mean you're a bad person committing crimes. But I have seen, by and large, what's the first thought of someone's head when they see someone that dresses like a goth? They must be criminals.
Yeah. I'm thankful that I have the background that I do in criminal justice, and I even went on to work part-time as a bail enforcement agent for a while. I still do it when I can squeeze in the time, so I'm working with the local, deputies and everything, serving warrants and stuff. So it's like, it's kind of, I see a lot of stereotypes. I see a lot of judgment, and, a lot of it leads into like hip hop culture and, they're all criminals because they live over here. Well, I used to live in the ghetto too before I made a real good career out of writing. So it's like, you see that sort of thing all the time.
Yeah.
And one thing I really like that Michelle brought out during our filming of the documentary, and I know she was planning on doing it anyway, and if she hadn't, I would have steered the conversation between her and I in that general direction, is she makes the valid point that a lot of people, authors, creative types, or just fans of vampires, see the vampire not only as the other and the outcast, but we're drawn to that archetype because some of us feel a kinship to archetype characters. It's like the devil was a rebel and cast out of heaven. The vampire was very much the same. If you read a lot of the older stories, or I believe Anne Rice touched upon it here and there. I know the movie of Bram Stoker's Dracula makes a very strong case for Gary Oldman when he says that, you know, he's defying God because he no longer feels, you know, that he took away his wife, you know, kind of thing.
Yep.
So I think a lot of our dark, powerful archetypes come from humanity feeling like an outcast, and this is something that's happened since, you know, the beginning of time. There's always been the oddball, and you know, I think that has a lot to do with people that love the different, the dark, the twisted. Some of us, like us, are fortunate to have careers where it becomes fun that we embrace and we can be out there in public. But there's others, unfortunately, who can't do that.
Now, do you find...
do you think... Well, go ahead, Joe. I was going to just say...
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry again. It seems like more often than not, because growing up, obviously, I watched, you know, a lot of horror movies as a kid. And, you know, grew up, like you were kind of like talking like the metalhead kids and the punk kids and stuff. That was me. And so, but for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people you speak to, you and Michelle, a lot of that initially was very cathartic. You know, that was you getting your rage out. And so you didn't have to build it up and go and do this stuff. You know, that was your pressure valve. Thank God for it.
Right. I would say that's definitely true. One of the things I have noticed over the years, though, is that with the height of Anne Rice's work, then moving forward into especially True Blood and Twilight, getting a huge fan craze in the general public, The Walking Dead now had like 10, 12 million viewers during the time football or whatever was playing.
Sure.
And they actually outdid, you know, whatever sports that were going on at the same time. More people watched The Walking Dead premiere, what was it, a year, 2 years ago?
Yeah, than actually watched the Super Bowl.
I do think that is very telling that the American populace is becoming a little more favorable in the horror genre and that type of thing, that we're becoming more okay.
Well, for instance...
you know, that sort of thing?
Yeah, tomorrow night's show, we're actually having the cast on from Ash versus the Evil Dead. And
awesome.
Which has been doing really well, but see, it just goes back again that horror is really a mainstay of entertainment. People want it, they like it. I mean, it wouldn't be doing so well if it wasn't what people wanted.
Exactly.
You know, it's
that's
what we
want. That, you notice things like not only the head star, you know, Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
You walk up to the guy who played Freddy Krueger. You know, he's an icon with or without his makeup. You know,
and a nice guy too, by the way. Yeah. And just a nice guy.
I think that horror is becoming more mainstream.
Yeah.
Than anything else. So it kind of makes it easier in a way when someone like me puts out a book or a documentary.
Yep.
On vampires, on witches, you know, stuff like that, where people are like, yeah, okay, I can get into that, and they don't have to feel like they got to hide it under their jacket when you hand them a signed copy.
Well, exactly. I was just talking to Ted Raimi, and he was in The Evil Dead, the film, and we were just having a conversation, and he said, you know, back when I was first started horror films, he's been in several of them now, and he's Sam Raimi's brother, of course. And he said, you know, it was almost on the same level as doing porn back in the old days. You didn't want to tell your friends you were doing horror movies. Because if you did, you know, they'd look at you a little weird.
And now you walk up to Sid Haig at Scarefest, and he's the nicest guy in the world, yet he does some of the most sick, twisted movies you've ever seen.
Yes, very, very true. This Sid is a great guy. I've had lots of conversations with him as well. You'd never know that he could turn it on to be Captain Spaulding out of nowhere. Yeah. You know, one of my good friends is Kane Hodder as well. And you know, Kane, you never know Kane is, he's meek and mild.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so these are actors that really came up to get fame through the ranks of the horror genre. Back when the horror genre, like especially when Hodder was doing it and Robert Ingman was doing it, was not so. The studios were not they were not favoring horror at that time.
Yeah, it was really above a grindhouse back then. You know, it was one of those things where it would be sandwiched in with this and that, you know, like the drive-in or something. And it seemed like it took a really long time. Just like you were saying, we're kind of getting to the point now where it's more accepted, which we've always had horror and kind of off-color stuff even before, like the old Penny Dreadful stuffs and all that. It's just now, I guess we're starting to accept that duality in our nature. At least that's the way I kind of take it.
Yeah.
Even if they don't say it, that's the way I'm taking it.
Yep, exactly. We got to run a break, though. We'll be right back with more Corvis. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about zombies next.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Anavar Media LCC is a dedicated team of professionals committed to helping business development scale and protect their websites, mobile applications, enterprise software solutions in the Northeast Ohio area. Locally owned since 2012, our client-centered values truly sets Anavar apart. Contact us today to learn how you can get 25% off your first project. Call them at 234-380-4852. Again, that's 234-380-4852, or visit them at www.anavar.com. Again, that's www.anavar.com.
Sure, when it comes to sex, you're responsible, but now they're marketing big-size condoms, and frankly, you'd need a belt and suspenders to keep one on. Well, don't be embarrassed. Hot Dog House now offers regular-size condoms with big-size package names.
Bob, you dropped something from your wallet.
Oh, my God, it's
Here. Oh, the Hindenburg.
Only kind I use.
Order your regular-size condoms from Hot Dog House with names that give you confidence. The Jolly Mean Giant, Cruise Missile, Pikes Peak, Superdome. Only you'll know the real story. But for a while.
So, why is there a munchkin riding in the Hindenburg?
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Do you have a question for our guest tonight? Don't feel like calling the show? Not a problem. Email those questions to afterhoursam@gmail.com. Again, that's afterhoursam@gmail.com.
This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Steve Asher.
Hey, Steve, we are having a great conversation with Corvis Nocturnum. And yes, I had to pronounce her name a little phonetically there because I almost went Corvis Nocturnum. That would not have been cool. But no, Corvis is an accomplished author, of course, written several books. And as everybody just tuning in, if you want to catch the replay, of course, we will have it up so you can download it. But we had a great talk about vampires and how they fit into culture and how people really kind of have taken to the vampire because it's truly its own culture in a lot of ways. But now we're going to flip on over to zombies. Corvis, zombies are everywhere. It's once it becomes, it's so popular now. It's almost mind-blowing because I was a zombie fan way back before it was cool to be a zombie fan. You know, I'm talking Creeping Death, George Romero zombie fan. Now they're everywhere. I swear to God, there's zombie weddings. Why has the zombie been so ingrained now in our popular culture?
Well, I think that the zombie in films and everything, you know, if I could be devil's advocate here, it reflects an irrational terror that we have of everything that isn't like us. I mean, I speculated that, you know, the shambling hordes that are overrunning everything in World War Z, the film with Brad Pitt, it could be alleged that that is a comparison of our fear of foreigners overtaking our country.
Sure.
It could be our fear of an economic collapse. You could also flip the switch on it and say that we're all looking for the reset button. We all want the next zombie apocalypse to happen tomorrow so we can start shooting people that, you know, upset us in the grocery line or cut us off in traffic or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, some people just want... we see things almost in such a nihilistic viewpoint that the world has gone to hell in a handbasket. We're frustrated. We don't think that voting is going to change anything. We don't think our neighbors are going to care if we try to do anything, so everybody gives up and we're apathetic. I think that's one of the reasons why we like apocalyptic type things. It's like it's the chance for the strong to survive and weed out the weak. And, you know, I
would
honestly
agree.
think that my personal love of it is who's going to survive? Are you smart enough? Have you learned enough? You know, you go camping plenty, you go shooting, you know, who's going to scavenge the best kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's more of a fantasy in my mind. But, you know, I can truly see that there's so many other facets and reasons why we love it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see people having zombie walks and people really actually preparing, and this is no joke, for the zombie apocalypse. I hate to burst everyone's bubble, but I'm pretty darn sure no zombie apocalypse is happening anytime soon. That being said, you know, again, it's fantasy, but in the same token, do you think it's man's, also our lower self, wanting to see that carnage, like you said, to hit the reset button so we could truly be who we are?
I think to some degree we all have that buried rage and hatred. We want to lash out, but our social mores and values and upbringing, you know, teaches us don't respond in violence to things. But it's in our nature. It's part of who we are. I think this unprecedented zombie affinity says about us that we fear a stagnant life. We want to stave off boredom and loneliness. You know, the zombie is an allegory. It's a metaphor for...
But
you know,
you say
Romero
that.
would talk about it.
Yeah, you say that, but once the lights go out, we all go nuts.
Yeah, we do.
You
And
know what I mean?
honestly, it's because the very same reason why we bury the dead. I talked about this in Cemetery Gates, Death and Mourning Through the Ages. I talk about the zombie and the vampire. The reason why we're terrified of these creatures from our earliest folklore and mythologies is because we're terrified the dead will come back to get us because they hate us because we're still alive and they're not.
Well, yeah. I mean, really, that's how it began, is the fear of the dead coming back to get us. I mean, way back when, they used to stake the dead. They'd open up the casket, they'd see the remains would have blood around its mouth, and oh my God, it's had to have been a vampire. And they stake the dead out of fear, and zombies are a fairly new phenomena. I mean, really, the zombie, as we know, didn't come around to 1968 because George Romero accidentally, in his words, made the zombie. It was never meant to be a zombie, you know. It was a metaphor for society.
Yeah, especially the movie about the shopping mall.
Yep.
His protest against mass consumerism. But I do object to the fact Romero says he created the zombie because in my research for Zombie Nation, we've always had it. The earliest fiction known to man is Gilgamesh, and they talk about when the gates of hell are open and the dead walk the earth. You know, We've had it in other myths. We've had shambling creatures like the Nosferatu that we were talking about earlier from the vampire documentary that I did. The earliest vampire, and if you go back and look at the Romanian culture, the folklore with them, they called anything dark and creepy strigoi. It was the word for witch. It was the word for werewolf. It was the same for vampire. Anything that was dark and sinister in the night that terrified them.
Yeah.
So I speculate that our earliest black and white film, Nosferatu, if you look closely at how it is, it's just a little less decayed than the Walking Dead creatures.
Yeah, it is.
They both feed and prey upon the living.
Yeah.
Our psychological fear is zombies tap into our fear of death. The only reason why vampires are a little more alluring is because they're not so decayed looking now with Anne Rice's reinterpretation, and we think they're sexy and everything and they can live forever. Well, the zombie is the flip side of that. It is the darker side of the coin of a vampire, where it'll eat you too, but it's not so pretty.
No, it'll rip you apart limb from limb. Do you think that the reason why... Zombies. Yeah, well, exactly. Do you think the reason why we have such a love now for the zombie is its danger from a safe place? That we can enjoy the danger and the feeling of danger without actually being in danger?
In a way, it's kind of like going to amusement parks and doing the demon drop. I'm terrified of heights, but I know there are adrenaline junkies that would do it. I think that we can enjoy the mayhem and slaughter of our baser human, self vicariously through watching it on the screen. And, feel like, I could do that, kind of thing. But who are we kidding? Most of us out there don't have the skills or abilities to survive that, and even the good ones probably don't.
No. I think that if a zombie apocalypse did actually happen and there are thousands of zombies coming to eat us all, most of us would not stand a chance, to be honest with you, me included. I would try to talk my way out of it, but that would never work. Let me lull you to sleep now with some After Hours AM. But that being said, I know that, but the funny part about society is this. As we watch the horror movies, we go, the zombies are coming to get you, but once the lights go out and you're in total darkness, as in a blackout, everything goes to hell, and everybody's in chaos. And we all talk tough, we all talk what we do, but when we are thrust in a situation that does require some type of skill of survival, I think you're absolutely correct. Most of us would not survive.
Well, I'll tell you, as somebody who has training, I do fugitive recovery, and even though I'm wearing body armor that'll stop an AK-47, and I'm armed with an automatic shotgun, and I go knocking on doors when there's just a regular human on the other side that says, I ain't going back to prison, I'm still afraid, even though I have backup with the Fort Wayne deputies. So I can look at those other people saying that they're going to survive a zombie horde and going, I don't think I'll last more than a couple weeks myself, that sort of thing. So it's like, we all fantasize about it and want to be part of the Walking Dead TV show, but that's only because of the fantasy in our minds.
Now, you talk about fugitive recovery, and my Lord, I did not know you did that. I did not read that anywhere when I was reading your bio and stuff. What's that work like? I mean, my Lord, that just must be scary. I'd like you to touch upon that as well.
I've done a lot of things in my career, in my time, that a lot of people would be surprised at. It's partly because I grew up watching Renegade and then Dog the Bounty Hunter and thought I could do that. And I was in the military for a short time. I did first responder training. I've always loved shooting guns, and I've always been fascinated in the whole prepper mentality with the whole zombie apocalypse thing. So it kind of went hand in hand.
Sure.
And a criminal justice degree too, so it's not like I'm out there as a crazy lunatic. I've got a degree. I got honors in criminal justice. So for me, it was a matter of fulfilling some.
Yeah, it's not something you would have the amateur
bucket list.
Yeah, it's not something you would advocate the amateur to. Hey, let's go get some fugitives. That is not something amateurs should be doing.
Yeah, and it's like you have to learn first aid, you have to know criminal procedure and court policies and what you can and can't legally do. So there's a lot to it, and it can be very dangerous.
Well, thank you for serving. I mean, seriously, thank you for doing that job, keeping everyone else safe.
I don't talk about it a lot because people don't care. They want to know, hey, Corvis or Eric Berner, you're out there writing books on zombies and paranormal travel books and things like that. That's cool and different. Whereas the other is, oh, yeah, you do that too. And at least that's what I thought.
Yeah, well, I find that very fascinating.
I'm surprised you haven't had a producer go, okay, here's the idea, Corvis. Okay.
Corvis,
by day, you serve these warrants and stuff. At night, you're a sexy goth cop. When you're doing this.
Goth cop.
You have a teammate who's a werewolf girl, and it's there's a love connection there, but there's tension there, so you don't want to cross the line. You ever had somebody try to put you on something really cheesy like that?
They haven't approached me yet, and I would do it for giggles and for attention for the books that I put out. I'm not gonna lie, I'll do it for the extra publicity.
Sure. I mean, thank you for sharing that with us. That your day job, because I find that just as fascinating as the stuff you write. Because I mean, that takes a special individual to go up and rap on that door. That's not for the faint of heart.
It's 90% boredom and being lied to by the other people, say family members or associates of them, and you're sitting out in all kinds of crappy weather, so 90% of it is sitting in a car watching a place to see if they're going to come out, or wild goose chases all over the place. And
not
that
as
10% that 10% where your heart's pounding, you whip out of the vehicle armed and have to tackle somebody and put them in cuffs, then it's over.
Yeah, it's not as glamorous as we see on TV.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so lots of bad copy and lots of late nights.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't like us either. They're like, you're not a real cop. I'm like, well, I have a badge and a court order to bring you in. So
That's right.
I don't care what you think of my job.
That's right. To you right now, yes, I am. Get over here.
Because any con's going to try to talk you out of it. I mean, you're going to try to undermine you. It's just like if you're hearing somebody talking to like doing an exorcism or something, which I would be curious what your opinion on that is as well. But it's like don't speak with the spirit. They're going to try to undermine you. They're going to try to weasel their way out of it any way they can.
Yeah.
Well, I'm fortunate because one of my authors with Dark Moon Press is a Fort Wayne police officer. I can't reveal his name.
Sure.
But I've got a good working relationship with the deputies here in Fort Wayne because when I did my internship for criminal justice, I actually worked at the probation department downtown. So I've made good friends on both local and county PD. So I have a little less trouble with them. We're nice. We tell them, hey, we're serving a warrant. You want to come with us? Yeah. We're not stomping on their jurisdiction.
Exactly. It's all about that healthy working relationship and healthy respect for each other.
And I'd wager to say that works with any profession. I get that when I'm doing a convention speaking circuit, promoting my travel books and the other things I write. I meet a lot of celebrities from TV shows like Paranormal State, Paranormal Lockdown, Haunted Collector. I know all these guys, and they're really cool and everything because, you have to have that professionalism and that respect for one another for what you do for a living because everybody knows everybody, or indirectly you're only 2 or 3 steps away from everybody else. And if you want to get like me, I want to put a TV show together and get it picked up. If I stomp on people around me or have an attitude at a convention, you think they're going to give me their connections on how their show got picked up so that I can do it too? No.
Exactly. You're absolutely correct. It's all about working together. And and building those friendships. Same thing in radio. A good friend of mine is a really famous talk radio show host, and he started this genre of radio that we're doing right now. And he's been a wealth of knowledge for me. And so it's been, and I wouldn't have learned from him had I not had a good relationship with him. He wouldn't have shown me the tricks of the trade and got me where I am today. Absolutely, totally respect that. Definitely respect that way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing of it is too, now Steve, he touched on demon possession. What's your views on demons? I mean, are they more personal demons, or do you believe, and just to touch on it, full disclosure, and I know because people are going to yell at me, how come you didn't bring this up during the interview? You're ordained in the Church of Satan. Am I correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
And because people keep asking me, I mean, Ghost Hunter Jason Hawes, I think his name is.
Sure.
He actually asked me to come on his radio show in 2 weeks and talk about Satanism, even though he's a paranormal guy, so I'm honored that my name has gotten out there enough where someone like him, of all people, want me on his show.
But you're on this show, so I mean, it's...
I know, God, you guys are just banging on my door all the time, but that's cool.
But no, that is cool. But all joking aside, do you believe, are there real demons from hell in your opinion?
No.
Okay.
That's the short answer, but the slightly longer answer is I was on a panel with Father Bob Bailey, Reverend Bill Bean, Michelle Bellinger, of course, because of Paranormal State, and Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Mm-hmm. We're all experts of some level on occultism and demonology and stuff like that. So we did a demonology panel at a convention about 4 years ago. And I was the only one at the end of the table that said, nope, I don't believe this stuff exists at all. And I was the odd man out of everybody, of course. And I said, my biggest fear about people that scream, oh, they're possessed by demons, I said, we are at a disservice to the people we are claiming to try to help. Mm-hmm. If we don't look at the mental issues that they have going on, they didn't take their meds, or maybe they need to be diagnosed. If we just slap on, some holy water and say, be gone, whatever, and what happens the next day because this poor person didn't get their meds and they killed their whole family? Who's culpable for that?
Good point. I've always thought that myself. Come on, mental illness. In fact, we have a forensic psychologist on the show that comes on, Dr. Clarissa Cole, that actually works with serial killers for a living. And she's brought up that same point, is let's look at the mental health before we jump to that other conclusion, because mental health can do a lot of strange things. In fact, we just she showcased, wrong word, of course, but she really gave us the forensic psychologist work of Ed Gein. Ed Gein, at the end of the day, was really someone with horrible, horrible schizophrenia and a lot of other mental issues. He does not fit the prototypical serial killer, but yet everybody wants to slap him with that tag. Same thing in this instance. We must tackle the reality before we go to the superhuman, supernatural realm. We gotta tackle that reality of healthcare.
The people on the rest of the panel, instead of lynching me, actually agreed with me and said that even when they try to do exorcisms and everything, they do talk to the client family ahead of time and say, is there a history of mental illness? They're trying to be a lot more sane about it and approach it in a way that they need to. And then, of course, there is the possibility, I'm not going to rule out, that it's a bit of correct me if I'm wrong, a bit of a placebo effect. Mm-hmm. If the person that's thrashing around and pretending to speak in tongues, if they just want to believe in it so bad that it's part of their psyche, and you say that they're healed and exercised, that maybe they believe that they are, and then therefore they become normal people again. There is that possibility too.
Oh, absolutely.
But the skeptic in me and the cynic says most of these people are just crying out for attention and play acting.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of shows you go on, they really hammer you on the Church of Satan. And quite honestly, I've interviewed Anton LaVey, and I do not believe he's with us anymore. I think he has since passed, but he was a very interesting individual to talk with, and he explained it that, the Church of Satan is not sacrificing virgins and doing all these things that are just misunderstood. Right. It's a religion. It's a recognized religion, mind you, all on its own. I mean, it is not, do whatever you want to do because, you can get away with it. No, it's much deeper, and there are checks and balances.
Yeah, I think it's self-imposed checks and balances are strength. What responsibility to the responsible is one of LaVey's highest laws, and stupidity should be painful. And, when you really strip away the archetype and the cool occult-looking trappings and what people visually think Satanism is, and you just explain it to them as the broad strokes philosophy of man's carnal nature and survival of the fittest and be responsible for yourself. And they look at you and go, oh, well, Satanism's kind of boring then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not as sexy as they think it is.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody wants to Hollywood it up. You know what I mean? They have a certain mind.
Hollywood horror movies and bogus news stories and all the crazy people like the Temple of Satan and all the whack jobs, those are the people who are making my job as a media representative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're keeping me in work, I'll tell you that.
I would imagine they are. Now, how did a nice guy like you, coming from the Midwest, end up? You know, we only got 5 minutes left. I wanted to wait to the end of the show because, you know, I didn't want to make this the show. But how did a nice guy like you end up in the Church of Satan?
Well, if you guys will have me back again, I
Absolutely.
can give an entire
We'd love to.
show on it. But the short version for the 5 minutes is I was kind of going, what is this myself? And then once a friend of mine explained it to me and I read a copy of the Satanic Bible, I was like, oh, this is a philosophy of common sense, and it's not all the crap that people say it is. I'm all about common sense and questioning everything because I'm a writer and researcher. Mm-hmm. And I do obviously love the dark and spooky Addams Family trappings because I love vampires and horror type stuff and, you know, the Gothic aesthetic. So it just kind of fit. So I joined, and then 8 years later I got promoted to Reverend, and the Peter Gilmore, the current high priest, had me over at his house, and he's like, you know, you've been doing such a good job speaking for us in the public and writing books and going on radio. We're going to make you a media rep and a priest. And I'm like, oh,
well,
wow.
All right.
He said, well, you've been doing it already. We thought we would honor you with the title.
That's high praise.
Yeah, that is high praise.
I was honestly blown away that the current high priest, and then I made friends with LeVay's former wife, Blanche Barton, you know, a year later, and she's like, you're doing a good job for us. Keep it up. I'm like, oh, wow, cool.
Well, sounds like a very tight-knit community of people.
Once you reach Reverend and higher, yeah, the upper echelon, I guess you might call it, of elites, we're all friends. We all know each other, but it takes an awful lot of work and impressing people, just doing what you do with your life before they'll promote you, because it's not about jockeying for a position.
Mm-hmm. Well, exactly. Exactly. Now, we only got a couple minutes left. Why don't you go ahead, Corvis, tell people where they can get your books, their websites, all that kind of cool stuff.
And what you got coming up next.
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
All right. Well, I'm extremely busy given what time of year it is, but Facebook.com/Corvis Nocturnum. You can find my website where it has all of my appearances, a lot of video on there, CorvisNocturnum.com. You can buy my books and, you know, 160 other titles by other authors. We have a wide range on darkmoonpress.com. And don't let the last hour fool you. We've got stuff like Robert Lasardo's biography. We've got books on herbalism and, you know, healing. We've got books on tarot and Reiki and all that. So Dark Moon has really branched out into multiple genres, and there's fiction on there. Of course, people can email me through my website, but the quickest way to reach me is through Facebook. I'm going to be in Champaign, Illinois on the 21st through the 23rd for Dark Horror and History Con.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, I'm popping up all over the place on Indiana Purdue University in Fort Wayne, Indiana on the 16th of November if people are in my area and want to come see me. And I've got a lot of events that I'm adding to my on my personal website under appearances.
Well, we'd love to have you back on the show and dig deeper into the, you know, more subject matters with you, because I mean, you've written on so many different subjects, and we'd definitely love to have you back on, man. That is totally you're in, man. You're in. You got to come back on the show. On behalf of myself, Joel Sturgis, and of course, Mr. Stephen Asher over there, we'd like to thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM. Take care of each other, love each other, and good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM, and please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.